I'm going to show you how to reclaim a screen in depth. Coming up. Welcome back. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. I'm going to show you my process as to how I reclaim screens, the products I use, and I'm going to give you some tips and tricks to make it a little easier so that way you get a nice clean screen that's ready to be coated with the emulsion. The last time I touched on this subject, the video was a little bit like this. Hey everybody, it's Matt with Mikey Designs and Silk Screens. I think it's time for a little bit of an update, don't you? Alright, so the first and most obvious thing is we got to get all that excess ink out and put it back into our ink buckets, because you don't want to go just tossing money down the drain. At this point, it's a good idea to go ahead and put some gloves on. I like to use these black gloves by Venom Steel. The reason I like to use these gloves is because I can use them over and over and they don't tear as easily as the blue or white gloves. They cost a little more, however, they'll end up saving you some money because you can reuse them over and over with doing your screen reclaiming, cleaning ink out of your screens, doing ink changes. Plus they just look cool. And a little bit of a money-saving tip, even though it might not seem like it, is using some tape that comes up fairly easy. This is PMI's dual tape. It has the tacky side. It has a more tacky side and then the side that's not as tacky. And it comes up real easy. And time is money, so if you're spending a lot of time taking off tape like you do with some of the blue tapes out there, then you kind of just throw money out the window because you're spending time removing tape. And at this point you're probably asking, why not do some liquid tape or buy some screens that already have it applied? You know, I can't really say that I'm a fan of it because of the splashback and the learning curve associated with it. Ask me how I know. Now we need to remove the ink, and this is for plastisol inks. We have to remove the plastisol ink. For water-based inks, you would just simply use the hose to rinse out the ink. However, we prefer to use plastisol ink, so I like to use a spray bottle with some ink remover. We just tend to get the cheapest in-house ink wash that we can possibly find, and at the moment it is GSG's ink wash. At this point I do recommend you put on some safety glasses and a respirator so you're not getting anything in your eyes and you're not breathing anything in. So let's go ahead and put that on. Let's do it. Well, it looks like I forgot to hit the record button in all the excitement. Well, it looks like I forgot to hit the record button in all the excitement that is making videos. However, I'm going to demonstrate with this screen here exactly how to wash out the ink. So here we go. So what I'm doing is spraying a generous amount of ink wash onto the ink side and the shirt side itself, and then giving it a light scrub. I tend to like to flip the screen horizontally so that way my ink wash just tends to run down from the top to the bottom, making sure that it doesn't just run off rather than flipping it vertically. Or I got that backwards. But you get the idea, and that will allow your ink wash to do its job for a little bit longer. Also, don't forget to scrub the edges of your screen so that way your exposure unit doesn't end up looking like that. We try our best. We try. You should too. Keep them as clean as possible. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to use some emulsion remover. And the same thing, we like to use inexpensive house brand GSG emulsion remover because it's just cost effective. Not only that, you can reduce it down 10-to-1, but we tend to reduce it down to the 3-to-1. So that way we have 1 part emulsion remover and 2 parts water, and it doesn't take a whole lot of emulsion remover to do the job. So we're going to take our spray bottle here. I'm going to hose it down generously Scrub it on both sides. Again, we're going to flip it horizontally or vertically. We're going to flip it, spray both sides down, and we're going to concentrate on the print side first because that's where most of your emulsion will build up. When you put it in the drying cabinet, all the gravity pulls that down, so most of it's going to be on your shirt side. Then I'm going to take my power washer and we're going to get after it. I'm just using a pretty inexpensive power washer. It cost me about $100. You don't have to spend a ton of money, and it does the job quite well. And I'll leave links down in the description as to where you can find some of these products that you can get on Amazon. And I'm going to do two examples here. This is a diazo emulsion, and we're also going to do a photopolymer. So that way you can kind of see the difference as to how these break down exactly. You like that? Some other tips during the reclaiming process is you want to start from the inside of the screen, the ink side. So that way you're blowing the bulk of that emulsion out. Work your way from the bottom, just overlap your pressure washer about 50% overlap, kind of like you would spray paint something. Also, you don't want to get too close to your screens or bump into your screens because you can tear them or puncture a hole into your screen. You also want to be sure to power wash the edges of your screen. For myself personally, I don't tend to remove the masking tape that I do use for covering up my registration marks because I just like to just let them collect at the bottom. It takes a lot of time just peeling those things off, and I can just collect them once they all start getting around the drain. And then last but not least, I will just kind of sheet almost waterfall-like water over the front and the inside, or the print side and the inside of the screen. So that way you're washing away any contaminants that will cause issues when you go to coat your emulsion. Alright, so here we are. I'm going to do one more example. This is just some tape that I put down to cover up pinholes. But I'm going to do this one in real time. Here is my emulsion remover. I'm just spraying a generous amount. I'm going to do it on both sides. And you want your nozzle on a spray rather than a mist. So you want the jet streams, that way it's not misting and you're not breathing that stuff in. However, I do have my mask off at the moment just so I can talk to you guys while I do this. Another very important step is you do not want to let this emulsion remover dry while you're doing this. Otherwise you can lock your screens in and your screen will be absolutely ruined. So I'm just going to give it a little bit of a light scrub. Both sides, and you can see it starting to break down. The bulk of the emulsion is on the t-shirt side. I'm just trying to keep my hand out of the way. Generally, hold on to the screen. See how I'm flipping it like that? That allows the emulsion remover to run down as you're working on one side. Flip it on the other. It'll start running back down the other side. Now again, we're going to start from the inside and we're going to work our way from the bottom on up, overlapping by about 50%. And one of the things, if you're having a hard time removing some of these edges, you can get a little closer, but you don't want to get too close. That way you don't put any holes into your screen. Now some of these parts here, the edges, if it doesn't want to wash out when you initially hit it, just move on and start working your way in the softer parts. This emulsion remover will work its way down, softening this up so that way you can remove it. got most everything out aside from this edge here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit it on this side, see if that helps. Now once we're on this side, I'm going to work my way from the top down to the bottom, so that way all this crap is just flushing out of the screen. And I'm going to hit my frame edges as well while we're doing this. So at this point our emulsion is completely removed, and I'm going to just take the water hose and just kind of sheet it over, giving it a little bit of a waterfall. You want it to completely sheet up. This is a 230, so with a 110 it will take a little more water. And we're going to do that to inside as well. And there we go, we're nice and reclaimed. We do have a little bit of haze here. Now we're going to address the haze. Alright, so the haze on this screen isn't too bad. However, we're going to use some just to see if we can get rid of it. And I'm just using Vortex's. This is GSG's house brand once again. I'm just going to take my brush. I typically take, it'd be ideal to have a separate scrub brush, but I just tend to use my emulsion brush. Take the container and just pour a little bit down so that way it kind of soaks into the brush. And then I'll give it a little bit of a scrub on both the inside and outside. And then I'm going to let that sit for a minute or two. And during this time while it's sitting, I could take this, set it aside, and start working on another screen. Alright, we've let it sit for a little bit, and I'm going to take my power washer and we're going to go ahead and hit it and see if we can't get rid of it. So now at this point, I'm going to do the same thing, just sheet water over this, get rid of the excess dehaze stain remover, and we're good to go. I'm just going to let some of this excess water drain out. I tend to hold my screen like this, and then I'm going to set it over here to the side so that way it can dry. Now it is typically tradition around my shop to let my screens just kind of set and drain a little bit before I do put it inside of our drying cabinet, so that way it starts getting a chance of drying before we stick it in there, kind of trapping some of that humidity in there. Even though we do have a fan to get rid of that moisture and to help dry them a little quicker, this will definitely give it a head start. A little bit of a tip for you. You can see that this screen is already starting to dry a little bit. This top part of the screen is dry. So at this point I am going to take this screen that we washed before this screen, and I'm going to set it in my drying cabinet just the same way we would do with our emulsion. And typically you do want to put it, if you have a cabinet, you want to put it underneath the most recent screen. So if I wash this one out and then this one out, I'm going to put this one underneath it. However, we do have a little bit of a tight spot in our cabinet here, and sometimes I just have to find a screen that's a little bit narrower. This one's not going to work, but So we'll just go ahead and stick it here until I have to wash out a screen that will go there. There we go. That one fits nicely. I know what you guys are saying, or some of you are thinking is, why don't I use degreaser? Well, a lot of time, typically a lot of these chemicals do come with degreaser in them already, and I feel like it's an unnecessary step. I don't tend to have issues without using degreaser. We do have some. We have some degreaser right back over here. You see it? But it's an extra step, and I can tell if the screen does need degreasing because you'll have little fish eye spots where the water is just completely dispersing around a certain area, and we don't tend to get that a whole lot. And you guys have seen some of our work. So let me know down in the comments what you think about not using degreaser. Let us know in the comments right now. Do you leave your comment? Good. I'll go back and I'll reply. I tend to get back to every single comment left on our channel. One of the things I should mention at this point about not using degreasers, when you take your screen out of the washout booth, is any of the water that comes off your hand, if your frame edge just isn't clean enough, and if it drips down into your screen when you hold it, you take your hand off, water just drips down into your emulsion, sure, you can have some problem areas. Also, you want to be sure not to touch your mesh with your finger, because the oil in your hands will not allow your emulsion to stick to it. So don't touch the screens with your fingers, okay? And that will definitely help. The whole drying process, just don't touch it. Handle it by the frame edge. Well, that's about it for this little tutorial tips, kind of walking you guys through how I personally like to reclaim screens. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe. That's about it for now. Until next time, guys, we'll see you later.